In last week's episode, I spoke about easy ways you can update your home on a budget. This can be done by changing up just a few things in your home. So go give that one a listen as I dive in and give you my easy and budget friendly tips. Now, in this week's episode, I want to talk about the Maker's Box, you guys, why I created it, what's in it, and why you don't want to miss out on this DIY subscription box.
Welcome to the Rescued and Upcycled podcast with weekly inspiration, tips on trying new techniques, and overall real talk about owning your own DIY business. Now, here's your host, Sonnet Ullenbrook.
Welcome back to Rescued and Upcycled. I'm your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock. I want to thank you all for joining me on my podcast. Now, this is episode 45. So, if you are new here, I do interview creatives and small business owners. I also love to incorporate and talk about all things business. And this year, I've decided to add a bit of design and decor topics to the podcast. And that is exactly what I did last week. It was the first time I dabbled in that. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. Now, I'm hoping that I have been inspiring you along with all of my guest hosts. And moving into February, I will be bringing them back. So the first part of the year, I really just dove into different topics I wanted to cover. And then moving into the February, we will be bringing back some guest hosts. Now, in today's episode, I want to talk about the Maker's Box. Now, last year, I decided I wanted to add a subscription box to my business. And I initially didn't know what I wanted to include in the subscription box. And it was an idea that I've had for a bit. And people, were giving me different ideas, and those people would be my viewers and subscriber or my viewers and listeners. And now my subscribers, were giving me different ideas. And I just kept on brainstorming, and I couldn't wrap my head initially around what I wanted to offer to everyone. So last year, early on, it was actually last February. So basically a year, you guys. I was sitting on Lake Winnebago. And if you're not familiar with Lake Winnebago, it is a very large lake it's part of the Great Lake system here in Wisconsin. And we do a lot of ice fishing out there. So I was actually sitting out on Lake Winnebago, and I was ice fishing with my family. And yes, you may be thinking, if you are in like a southern state, that your lakes do not freeze over. Yes, our lakes do freeze over. They don't freeze solid, but you get a good foot and a half of ice to be able to walk out on. And that is exactly what we did. And when you're out there, you don't just stand on the ice. Nope, you get a nice little what we call ice shanty, or a little hut, and you can pop them up, and then you put a little heater in there. So it's nice and toasty warm. You drill some holes and you do what we call jig. And you jig, you kind of like jig a jigging pole, and you're hoping that a fish bites your line. So, a little backstory of what I was doing. And so we do that in the winter for fun. I know for some of you, it may not sound like fun, but it actually is a ton of fun to be out there with my family, friends. And when you're sitting in there, you get a lot of time to start brainstorming. And I have some of my best ideas when I am either out ice fishing or in the boat fishing in the summer. I just think that just being separated from my environment that I'm normally in, and just being out in the outdoors, it just really gets my ideas flowing. So that day, you guys, I had a lot of thoughts and ideas running through my head. And I started off thinking, like, what would I want if I had something showing up at my door each and every month? What would I want in a subscription box? And, what inspires me? What gets me excited to create? And I was kind of like, what would I want? I mean, I can basically, like what is it that I would be excited for each and every month? What gets me, so excited? And then I'm like, "Ugh, do you know what excites me? When I have a new release, like when IOD puts out a new release, or Royce puts out a new release, or I buy a new product that I've never tried, and I'm like, that's it. So I can honestly say that I am instantly inspired when I have something new to create with. My creative juices just get a flow in. And I think about like when I don't have like that new release coming to me from like IOD or Royce or, the painted photographer, I sometimes then go thrifting. And just having that new item in my hand, that new thrifted piece, that will actually help, get me in the mood to create. So, honestly, you guys, I created the Maker's Box to do the same thing for you. I want you to feel inspired every month, and I want you to be pushed out of your comfort zone to really unbox your creativity. And I hear that so often from my subscribers as they say, when I got the box and I was like, "Oh gosh, what, like this is something I wouldn't have actually probably purchased, but I love it." And it's a color that I never thought I would try, and now it's one of my favorite colors, and so that is what I want to do for each and every one of you. I truly created the Maker's Box for all you DIYers, like furniture flippers, mixed media artists, crafters, upcyclers, basically all you makers, and that is really how I ended up with the name. I'm like, "Well, I can't call it the DIY subscription box because, I guess I could have." I was trying to figure out a name, and you guys are all makers. You're creatives, and this box is honestly, I feel like one of the best DIY subscription boxes out there. And really, as I went through the creation of it, I really consider the Maker's Box an experience. So, from the experience of you opening that door and seeing that bright, beautiful box at your doorstep, to cutting it open and ripping open the tissue paper and the excitement you feel, and then to be able to create with items that nobody else can get their hands on, it is truly an experience. So I do love also just curating everything that you find in the Maker's Box, starting with the beautiful papers from Royce and Connie. So the first thing that I do is I reach out to both of them and I have an idea or a vision for the box. And I say, like, this is what I'm thinking this month. And they both go to town and they just start creating. And you guys, I get so excited when they send over proofs to me to look at, and then I get to pick and choose which, papers that I want to have in the box. And then from that point, that's when I choose all the paint colors. So once I have the papers in hand, I lay them out and I take a peek about, look at what colors are in Royce's papers. And based on those colors, I choose two fusion mineral paint colors. And then, um, Connie from The Painted Photographer, her beautiful rice papers. If you're not familiar with Connie, what she does is she hand draws out each of her papers, and then she uses DIY paint and she paints them with DIY paint. So it is so easy for me to just pick out different colors from her papers from the DIY paint line. And then from there, once I have those 4 pieces picked out, I then curate the Sweet Pickins Milk Paint color. And I just want that color to go with the whole box. And if you haven't had the opportunity to play around with milk paint, you guys are missing out. Let me tell you. It's an authentic milk paint, and in powdered form, it has no shelf life. It lasts forever. Once you mix it, you do have roughly 24 hours to, use it up, or it does spoil. And it has, if you are not a fan of brush strokes, it has the smoothest finish, you guys, and it's very unpredictable. So you don't know how much chippy goodness you're going to get, or that crackly, like authentic look. And you do have ways to control that. But if you want that unpredictability, you just mix it up and apply it as is. So once I get all of those items in the box, I then want to add just a little extra thank you. And I just add a little surprise to go in the box beyond those items. I take a look and I get inspired by all of those items, and then I curate a thank you gift for you. And so that is like a little extra something for you right in the when you open it up. So, every month, you guys, when the Maker's Box does show up at your door, I just want you to feel like a kid on Christmas morning opening a present. I mean, like, if you remember back to when you were a little kid and the excitement that you felt when you ran downstairs and there was a gift under the tree for you and you didn't know what it was, I just love that feeling and the excitement of seeing what's inside of the box. A gift from me to you, that just truly makes me so happy. And then, once you have the box, I love seeing what you guys all create with it. That is the gift that you guys all give me, sharing your beautiful creations. This truly does make me so happy and my heart so full. I just feel, honestly, you guys, I feel so blessed that I am able to create the Maker's Box for each and every one of you, and just so thankful for it. So, something that was just a mere like idea a year ago, I cannot believe it is officially 9 months old. I look back and I'm like, I've learned so much over the last 9 months, and I just cannot wait to see where the next, 2025 takes us. I just feel like each and every box just keeps getting better and better, and I am just continuously learning. And now I feel like I've got my groove, and really know what everyone is starting to look for. And honestly, if you have ideas or suggestions of papers that you would love to see in the subscription box, I am open to suggestions. So I love ideas and suggestions from my listeners and viewers. And that is just what's going to make the subscription box even better and better. I know that on one of my lives, many of my viewers mentioned that they loved the look of, or they wanted a Hollander cow. Highlander. They wanted one Highlander cow. I think that's what it is. And I just decided that's what I was going to add as my little special gift. And I found the most beautiful napkin that had one on it. And I have heard such amazing things from people who have created with it, that they're selling everything. Every time they use that napkin on something, it immediately sells. So, again, that would never have been in my subscription box had nobody said anything to me. So, Again, I will not be opening up the Maker's Box again till later on in this year. So if you haven't heard the news, the Maker's Box is officially open now, and it is open until February 1st at midnight. And then after that, I will close the doors and I will work through the next few months. And then I would say probably later on in the year, I will open it back up, and then add additional spots. So I like to cap it off and get everybody acclimated to the subscription box and keep it at a certain controlled number, and then continuously add as I get used to packing all those boxes. So if you haven't heard, I do pour every single DIY paint. I pour them all into individual jars. I pack each of the Maker's Boxes myself. So a lot of time and love goes into each and every box. And I like to be able to control how many I'm adding each and every month, until I get used to packing that many more boxes. And then I will be adding more. So, I hope you've really enjoyed today's episode and just saw a little insight about how I came up with the Maker's Box, why I created it, what is all in it, what goes into it, and why I love creating it for each and every one of you. And if you haven't yet, you need to get a subscription to the Maker's Box. So you guys have until midnight on February 1st to do that. Well, I hope to see each and every one of you over on the creative side. And remember, I do have a creative team, and we put out a playlist the second week of the month to inspire everyone that has a subscription box. So they all use the subscription box and create a YouTube video. So even more inspiration for each and every one of you. All right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, like I said. But in next week's episode, you guys, I am going to be talking about managing and using your time wisely. So, here in Wisconsin, it's bitter cold and you can't really enjoy the outdoors because you're trapped inside. So, let's use this time wisely. And I am going to be talking about how you can be proactive versus reactive when it comes to your small business. So I hope you enjoy, or I hope you can join me on next week's episode, as we dive into that topic. And if you haven't already, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you guys don't miss out on an episode. And if you are watching on YouTube, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let me know in the comments what you guys think. Now, if you don't have Spotify or you're not on the podcast platforms, you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Sonnet's Garden Blooms, where I will provide additional content each and every day for you. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you next week. Bye.